Anybody else? Father was every place body gesture of those grateful for their spiritual father. Do work. Body
Honor and privilege to be back with you here at Lafayette this evening, and I'm thankful that you're out on a cold night, and I'm thankful that your heat is working well. We actually saw some snow yesterday, which in December is very unusual for us. It has been probably just over a year and a half since my last visit. It was early 2018 when I was last up, and so a lot has gone on, probably for you, definitely for our school, and for me personally. For those of you who are in the club, my wife and I, we were privileged to join a fantastic club back in April. We became grandparents, and so yeah, it's an exciting club to be in, and Christmas takes on some new excitement for us this year as well, and so we're excited about that. We'll do what we've done before. We'll spend a few minutes talking about what's going on at the school. We'll study some Bible, and that'll take up our class time this evening. As always, the most important thing I need you to hear me say tonight is on the screen right now, and that is thank you. Could not do what we do without all the friends who make our work possible, and in a day and a time where, let's see, is that going to move on its own? Do I point this in any particular direction? Let's see. There goes one. All right. In many cases today, when somebody gets interested in ministry, in preaching, a lot of guys out there, they're borrowing a lot of money to get the education and the training that they need. And so down in Florence at Heritage Christian, our school's a little bit different, and we've chosen a different pathway, and we've chosen a different model. We're providing the kind of training that folks need today to get ready for ministry, effective training. But we're very, very focused on keeping it affordable. Our goal when somebody comes to us and goes through school, we want that person to go through, not have to borrow money for their education. We want to see our students graduating without debt. And see, that's not normal today in our culture. A lot of people borrow a lot of money to go to school today, and so what you're helping us do is allow our students to choose a different path. We've jumped ahead. Maybe I've hit the button too many times. Those lesson notes that you have serve as my business card, and I want you to have a way always to get in touch with us. Now, there are things in the lobby for you. There's some ink pens. There's a one-page summary of our school and how it works. You're welcome to pick that up. And there's one other thing that I'll talk about. But if you ever are talking with somebody who's talking about preaching or ministry or something like that, please recommend, and especially if money, finances are an issue, recommend that person check out the options at Heritage Christian University. These lesson notes, again, serve as a business card, so you now have a way to get in touch with us. We went through a transition when I was last here. Kirk Brothers had been announced as our new president, but he had not yet begun his work. He began with us in June of 2018. So this past summer, he completed his first year, and it was a productive year. It was a powerful year. He got a lot of things done. He gathered a lot of important information. He spent a lot of time asking church leaders down in our area, when you're hiring a preacher, what do you need to see in that guy? He wants to make sure that what we're offering our students is what churches need. He was also asking church leaders, how can our school better serve the church? And one of the resounding answers that came back over and over was, we need more leadership training. And so we've established a leadership institute now. And so there is a bulleted list of some of the things that President Brothers accomplished during his first year, and you're welcome to pick one of those up in the lobby as well. When I'm talking with a congregation, I haven't always put this on the screen, but sometimes people don't understand, or they just haven't gotten to know us well enough to know what we're about. Everything we do falls under the umbrella of ministry. And so when you're walking the halls at our school, if you're a student, you're walking the halls with other people who are there to be more effective in serving in the kingdom in one way or another. And so whether it's an undergrad degree, it's in biblical studies. Whether it's one of our 3 master's programs, it's all under the umbrella of ministry. But then I also want you to notice that bottom bullet point where it says audit classes. Now, typically, when you hear the word audit, is that a positive word or a negative word? It's a negative word. Why? The IRS. If they send you a letter and it says audit, that's not a good day, or potentially not a good day. Well, I want to talk about audit in a good way for just a minute. Every semester, we have people who want to grow in their knowledge, grow in their ability to better serve. But they're at a point in life, they're not worried about earning a degree. They don't want to take tests. They sure don't want to write a research paper. And so they enroll as audit students. And some do that on campus, but you could do that from right here in Lafayette. And you could be live with our class, and your face would be up on the wall, and you can interact with a teacher. I was down in Tupelo, Mississippi a couple of months ago on a Sunday night. And after services, a gentleman came to me. He's retired. And he said, I do mission work. I go out of the country a couple of times each year, and I would love to take a class on how to better put together a lesson and then present that to people. And so this spring, when classes resume in January, he'll be an audit student in our class on how do you put together and deliver a sermon, a lesson, whatever you want to call it. So that's what audit students do. They want to grow, but they're not trying to earn a degree. And so in most cases, because of our scholarships, there's no charge if you ever decide that you want to audit a class. And so if you'd like to know more, please see me afterward. I think it makes sense to remember why you do mission work, not just with us, but in general. And we could talk about the 200 to 300 million people, whatever the number was in the first century as Jesus is giving the Great Commission. We could talk about the 7 billion people on our planet today. We could talk about the projection that by 2025, over 2 billion people on our planet will not know who Jesus is. But maybe the number that resonates best is the one on the screen right now. That's Ed Gallagher teaching some of our students. And what we're thinking about constantly as a class is going on is see every minute 99 people leave our planet. And you understand as well as I do, when somebody leaves, there are a lot of things that don't matter much anymore. Doesn't matter where you lived or what you had or what you drove, and none of those things matter. What's the one question that matters when somebody leaves? Where are you going? Are you right with God? And so if we're together for about an hour tonight, that's almost 6,000 people that leave. And so it's just this reminder that, yes, in working with us to get workers ready who will devote their lives to doing kingdom work, whether it's a children's home you're involved with, whether it's a missionary doing work in another country, everything you do in missions matters because the clock never stops. We're solving a problem for students. When a student applies for enrollment with us, it's because the student has realized, I really want to be in ministry, I want to preach, I want to do mission work, I want to do youth ministry, whatever it is I want to do, I'm passionate about that, but I need training And so the work we're doing together, the work you're supporting financially, is where we solve that problem for that student with education, with equipping them for service, and we believe that empowers them to be very, very effective in doing ministry. In the past 5 years, 97 students have earned degrees, so we're averaging about 20 graduates a year. And we like to think of that in terms of, okay, if each one of those graduates can average about 40 years of service, that's almost 3,900 years of preaching, ministry, serving churches, evangelism, all of those things that go under the umbrella of, hey, we got somebody ready for ministry, and now there's a lifetime of service ahead. The back of your lesson notes has a little bit of information about the school, and there are a couple of numbers on the back. We like folks to remember that while the investment that you make is about a graduate who goes through school, graduates, and then devotes a lifetime to ministry, every semester faculty, staff, and students are actively involved in evangelism. And so for 2018, 114 baptisms were attributable to the work of faculty, staff, and students at Heritage Christian University. 53 restorations. And so for every one of those good things going on, Lafayette has a hand in each of those souls that are being added to the kingdom. Our enrollment right now is 112 students. We had 92 credit students. We had about 20 auditors. And so, again, all of those students are in one way or another being better prepared to serve in ministry. Our alumni are serving in 38 states, 36 countries. Our graduating class from this past spring, while the class was smaller than usual, we had 10 graduates, we added at least 3 new countries to the list of those being served by our graduates. We had a young man finish up and go back to the Netherlands, our first graduate there. We had a young man go back to Dubai to work with his father in an established ministry there. We had a graduate going back to Antigua. And so it always amazes me that this small school in northwest Alabama, in Florence, has this impact that's, yes, it's impactful here in the States, but making an impact also literally around the world. Every student that arrives has a story, and I would love to be able to just go story after story after story. One of our young men right now, Austin Gertz, he is from right here in Tennessee. He's from the Lewisburg area. Austin was not blessed to grow up in a Christian family, wasn't blessed to grow up going to church every Sunday. If you were blessed to grow up that way, be thankful. But through the influence of one of our other graduates who was preaching in Culleoka, Corey Bell, began to know Austin at a young age. Austin actually lived with Corey for a little while, but when Austin finished high school, he had decided he wanted to preach. And so he enrolled in the fall of 17. And I remember the first chapel service that fall, Austin got up to read Scripture in chapel for the first time. And it was one of those readings where he's reading and it's not easy for him and he's having a hard time and you're pulling for him if you can just get through those verses. But the beauty of seeing somebody start in a place like that is you get to see him grow. And he's grown, and now he's preaching 3 Sundays a month at the Pea Ridge congregation in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. He posted today, he got through his finals. He said it was a rough semester. He said, I'm now a junior in college. He's growing, he's making progress, and the scholarship that's provided because of so many people who care about keeping it affordable, that's what allows guys like Austin to be in school. And so I'd like to give you a flavor for just at least some of the folks that you're helping. Titus Camp continues to be a blessing. We have young people in the second week of July each summer. They pay $25 to spend an entire week with us. And during that week, that covers all their food, it covers their lodging on campus, and they spend a week learning how to go and put together an outline, put together a lesson, do biblical research, and then on Sunday, before they go home, they go to a local congregation with a chaperone. The young men preach, the young ladies teach ladies' classes or children's classes. We have one of the very few training camps in the Brotherhood where our campers actually use what they've worked on all week before they go home. So if any of you would be interested in a camp like that, we'd love to talk to you about being in Titus Camp with us in July of next year. Here's where I'll leave this and we'll get to some Bible study. Americans today owe $1.56 trillion in student loan debt. You don't have to have the news on very long, and there'll be another story about the crisis in higher education. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about how the paradigm that many of us have grown up with and worked under is if I'm working for a company and if I'm putting money in a 401k, a lot of times the company will match some of that contribution. Today, the paradigm has shifted, and companies are trying to attract young workers who've just graduated, and so companies are saying, hey, if you're making a student loan payment, we'll match some of your student loan payment. And of course, if you're doing that, then what's the company not helping you do? They're not helping you start on your retirement. That's our culture today. 69% of 2018 college graduates were borrowing about $30,000. In 14% of those cases, parents were borrowing about $36,000. We all know somebody who's been to school and borrowed a lot of money. We're getting people ready for ministry. We believe that it doesn't serve a young minister well if he graduates and he's burdened with debt. And so the work we've been doing together, before we revamped our scholarship program, and you've seen that top number before, 2012, our student body of about 100, they borrowed $252,000 to go to school that year. And that's when we decided some things needed to change. And so we enhanced our scholarship offerings, and this past school year, our student body of about 100 borrowed a grand total of $18,224 to go to school. I want to see that number at zero. I look forward to the day that I can stand in front of churches like you all and say, hey, our student body borrowed nothing last year. We're making progress. The 2019 graduating class, none of them borrowed any money while they were in school with us. And so again, if you know of someone who's thinking about ministry, and especially if money's an issue, they really need to check out what's going on in Florence, Alabama. But that's the work we're doing together. Effective training, but keeping it affordable for the students. And so I'll be in the lobby afterwards. If you've got questions to ask then, be glad to entertain them. But we continue to be thankful, grateful for everything you do, both as a church and as individuals, to help our work go forward. All right, if you've got a Bible, if you want to open it to Luke chapter 10, we'll spend a few minutes here in Bible study. It is the most wonderful time of the year, right? Some of you probably have it all done. You've done all the shopping, you've finished it up. Every day when you come in from work, it's nothing more than making sure there's a fire going in the fireplace. Got your feet up, right? And no pressure. Now, for the few of you that's where you are, you make us sick, because most of us, we're running around thinking, I'm never going to get it all done. I'm never going to get it all ready. So if that's you, just know that some of us kind of envy you. Some of us are more accustomed to the 7 irrefutable laws of the Christmas holidays. Number 1, as the amount of time you spend finding a parking place increases, your Christmas cheer decreases at an exponentially faster rate. The other checkout line, number 2, always moves faster. And that's why we use Amazon. Number 3, the most frightening words are some assembly required. If you're a young parent, you'll figure that out. The 3 most overlooked words are batteries not included. If you hear a loud crash in the living room, it means your cat has probably just knocked over the Christmas tree. And if the plumbing in your house is ever going to go wrong, it will happen while everybody's there for Christmas, right? We know how things work. So we call it the most wonderful time of the year, and in a lot of ways it is. But I think for a lot of us, we'd agree that there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure. Sometimes it's not having enough time. Sometimes it's having more people to buy for than we feel like there's money to go around. Sometimes there's emotional things going on with holidays. Sometimes for some, it's a very lonely time. Because while others are with family, for whatever reason, we're missing people that we've been very close to. Well, Luke chapter 10 is an interesting account because Mary and Martha, and we're really focused on Martha in this scenario, but Martha has invited Jesus into her home. Of all people you could have in your home to entertain, she's entertaining Jesus. And I want to read from this narrative and see what we can learn that maybe will help us. Verse 38 says, "Now as they were traveling along, he, talking about Jesus, entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister called Mary who was seated at the Lord's feet, listening to his word. But Martha was distracted with all her preparations." Literal translation, she was distracted with much service. She was serving to the point that she was distracted. Let that sink in. "And she came up to him and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the serving alone? Then tell her to help me.' But the Lord answered and said to her, 'Martha, Martha, you're worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary, for Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her.'" And as we get into this, I want you to hear verses 41 and 42 and again from the NIV, because there's some wording in that translation that really, I think, comes into play in helping us think through this in a very effective way. 41, "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you're worried and upset about many things." And then verse 42, "But few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." I love that phrasing. Because as you think about us doing life, and yeah, there are a lot of things that go on in the holidays, but there are a lot of things all the time. We're always making choices, and occasionally we're making choices between something that's good and something that's evil. But that's not all of it. A lot of times we've got multiple choices in front of us, and everything that we're looking at, there's some merit in all of it, and it's not a matter of choosing good versus bad, good versus evil. In many cases, we're trying to figure out from several decent options which one is better, which one is best. Martha, as we think about her, it's easy to kind of vilify her a little bit, but you know, she's done some things right. There we go. She's opened her home to Jesus. She's welcomed him into her home. Now, for some of you, you understand having people in your home can be highly stressful. You realize if you've been doing church life for a while, do we spend as much time in each other's homes as we used to? Why do we not do that? Well, I don't know. But it is a stressful time. The only time, you know, if you're ever going to get your house, really want it cleaned up well, what do? You invite people over, right? Because if you're going to invite people over, then that sends you into a frenzy, because we've got to get things cleaned up. We've got to get it right. We've got to make it look like we live in a clean house all the time. And so there's a lot of stress when you know you're going to have somebody in. Think about what happens during the holidays. We're going to have family in. And sometimes we got to spend time with family members that maybe bring stress into our lives. And for a variety of reasons. You may feel like you've got people coming into your house, they're going to be very critical of you. Maybe the way you've decorated or not decorated, or the way you've cooked or not cooked, or something like that. Or sometimes we have people in our homes, and the stress comes from the fact that I've got to spend time with family members who, at least as I understand God's Word and I understand the way they're living, I don't think they're right with God. And there's some stress in that sometimes, because we would love nothing more for them to eventually obey the gospel and be right with God. But they're family, and we're going to spend time with them. In the case of Martha and Jesus, there's a relationship. You remember John chapter 11, when Lazarus has died, Martha's the one that said, man, if you would have gotten here, he would not have died. She had a real confidence in Jesus and his ability to heal. There's a relationship there. And even though there's a relationship, it seems like that she's got this belief that she's got to be the perfect host. And in the text, what we see happening with her is she's going to become distracted. You can almost picture it in your mind. Jesus in the house, Jesus evidently sitting in one room, talking and teaching with Mary sitting at his feet, but Martha's in the kitchen and, putting on coffee, setting the table, getting everything out. She's got all these preparations that are going on. But then there's Mary. Martha's working hard. Mary's not working at all. You probably have had it happen, either around the holidays or some other time. You're in the kitchen working your fingers to the bone, and you look in the other room, and there's somebody in the recliner that ought not be. Anybody seen that happen? And there's a little resentment that goes on with that sometimes, because here I am, I'm trying to get this done, and somebody else isn't, and that's where Martha is. We understand that. Most of us have been there, either on one side of that argument or the other. And so some selfishness comes out. Martha's serving, yet she ends up distracted. And her distraction is evident as she becomes very critical of her sister Mary. I'm trying to take care of Jesus. What could be wrong with that? The honor of serving a meal to my friend, the honor of having him in my home. Even as she becomes critical with her sister, it's all about trying to take care of Jesus. Remember this. It's one of the things that probably is very important for this lesson tonight. Good things can become distractions when they take us away from better things or best things. And that sometimes can happen to us. Martha's focus, she's focused on meeting the needs of Jesus. But she's so focused on that she becomes distracted, and to the point that Jesus really is not in a good position to meet her needs. She can't get what she needs most. She can't get what only Jesus can provide because she's become distracted. At the core of her distraction is selfishness, is it not? When she says to Jesus there in the verse, "Lord, do you not care that my sister's left me to do all the serving alone? Then tell her to help me. This isn't fair to me. I'm thinking about what happens when we think too much about ourselves? That's when we get selfish. That's when selfishness raises its ugly head. Now, on the other side of this, if I'm the guy in the recliner and somebody's in the kitchen working hard, what do I need to do? Say it louder. Yeah, we need to get up out of the recliner, because in most cases, if we've ever been accused of sitting in the recliner when we ought to be helping, it's not because we're having a Bible study, right? Just being honest. So we need to remember both sides of this. But in the end, Martha should have made a better choice. It's worth noting Jesus is interesting in the way he deals with people and in the way he teaches, because Jesus is in there, he's interacting with Mary, he's teaching, he's blessing her, and he doesn't come down on Martha until Martha becomes critical of her sister. And it's at the point that Martha starts complaining about her sister that Jesus steps in and calls her out. When her selfishness breaks out, that's when Jesus weighs in. And his statement, it gives us the idea there may be more going on with Martha than is even revealed in our text. Because he says, Martha, Martha, you're worried and troubled about many things. There's a lot that you're troubled about. Sounds a lot like us sometimes. Sometimes we are worried and we're troubled, we're bothered by many, many things. And without speculating regarding what we don't know, it does remind us that Jesus knows everything. He knows all. He knows what's on your mind and on your heart. He knows what's on mine. He knew that then for her. He knows that for us today. We can't fool him. And so what Jesus does in that moment is he points her toward the one needed thing, the one thing that can bless her. The idea that Mary chose that, the idea of being at the feet of Jesus, bowing in worship before him, learning what he needs us to know for us to be able to live the lives that he wants us to live. Jesus says Mary has chosen the good part, chosen what is better. And so for us, as we are doing life, we would be doing well to be seeking the better choice, even though some, if not all, of the options in front of us may be good. And sometimes that can be very difficult, and that's not just a holiday thing, that is a year-round thing. And if you think about it, choosing what is better, choosing what is best, that has implications for everything about being a Jesus follower. It has implications for how often am I going to show up and be in attendance at a worship service, at a Bible study, at a church function. It has implications for my involvement as a member of the church family. It has implications for the ministries that I get involved in with the church. It has implications for everything about living the Christian life. There are always going to be choices in front of us. Am I choosing what's best? Am I choosing what is better? So a few practical ideas as we finish up before we take our break. These may help us overcome what can be stressful times now during the holidays, maybe other times of the year. But one thing we can be blessed by, set realistic expectations. One of the translation of verse 40 reads, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. What Martha was choosing to do wasn't bad. The idea of serving Jesus, the things those things, they were good, but maybe not all the things she was doing were really necessary. And sometimes we've decided that we've loaded so many necessary items on the list that just have to be done. We stress ourselves out, we get selfish, and we call other people out when maybe we've just got too many things on the list. Maybe we need to take some things off the list. We need to remember why we're doing what we're doing. When we work hard to get the house ready and to invite the people in, why are we doing that? You know, hopefully it's because we love those folks and we're looking forward to being with those folks. And sometimes, like I said, we'll be with people who really need a relationship with Jesus and they don't have that right now. And if we act out in such a way that we don't look like Jesus, we don't want to put a barrier between them getting to where they need to be. We need to remember why we're doing what we're doing. And maybe that'll help us not be so overstressed. Maybe one of the things that we need to do is to decide to make a difference. Do something positive for somebody during the season. Is that on the previous? Let's see. Nope. And I went back too far. Okay. I got behind. And there we are. What if we focused on mending a family quarrel this holiday season? What if we focused on building a bridge with a family member that we really don't look forward to spending time with during the holidays? What if we really focused on trying to improve that relationship? What if we decided that we were going to tell somebody this holiday season how much they've blessed our life? What if we decided we were going to forgive someone who's treated us wrong, maybe even a family member? What if we decided that this holiday season, when things got tense at home, we were going to turn away wrath with a soft answer? What if we decided we're going to visit someone this holiday season who's lonely? What if we decided we're going to surprise everyone and apologize when we find ourselves in the wrong? They may pass out, might be in a trip to the ER, but it'd be worth it sometimes to just say, hey, I was wrong. Might be the time to be especially kind to someone with whom we work. Maybe someone who the world will look at and say, they really don't deserve it. They don't act right. They don't treat me right. What if we decided we're going to be kind to them this holiday season? Stress can be a proverbial killer this time of year. But just like Martha, we do much of it to ourselves. And so I would encourage us all to slow down and remember that as choices are put in front of us, We've got the choice to be selfish. We've got the choice to make a better choice. Let's have a word of prayer and then we'll take our break. God, we love you and we're so grateful that you love us and bless us in so many ways. We're thankful for servants like Martha. We're thankful for what we can learn from her. We're thankful that she was so desirous to be a good servant, to meet every need of Jesus. In those times where we get so busy that maybe we're distracted, help us to remember to keep our eyes on Jesus so that He can meet our needs. Help us to be selfless, not just during this holiday season, but year-round, so that people can always see Jesus living in us, see that Jesus is clearly a part of our lives. We look forward to being in heaven with you one day. We're thankful that you sent your Son into the world, His birth. We're thankful for that. We're thankful for His life. And most of all, we're thankful for that great sacrifice on the cross, Him dying there, being raised again, and winning the victory at Calvary. We look forward to being in heaven with you one day, and it's through the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Thank you for your good attention.
enough for the congregation, but it's still back to discussion. Some leaders. Number 59. Some investments. After possible. The free project, we've got, Friday, starting at 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Some teachers who items, especially items. All the things. Five things. That was it. Prayer breakfast Saturday. Lives on still ministry. Sunday we'll following our services, praying with dinner, turkeys, and Friday. Have White House listed. Second, we will at the year church office be closed. Still Sunday. The one of very good mix-up. But that fishing goes with coffee and the rapid coffee change with others. But we love that you like sponsor something. These two ladies here charge this. But you talk to pride and unity. Not you have your
I said before, I appreciate your good attention tonight. If you were in the Bible class, we were in Luke chapter 10, and we were noticing that account where Martha is trying to serve Jesus, and she's so busy and so focused on serving that the scripture says she gets distracted, and she actually gets upset with her sister. And, we talked about how sometimes we get very stressed out this time of year, and it can result in us acting in some selfish ways. But I want to close and extend the invitation just based on the statement that Jesus makes to Martha about Mary when Jesus says, "Martha, Martha, you're worried and bothered about so many things, but only one thing is necessary, for Mary has chosen the good part, which shall not be taken away from her. Tonight, there's really one thing that's necessary. And most of us have made that choice. The one necessary choice that needs to be made, the best choice that any person can make, is to be a child of God, to be a Christian. And I'm thankful that one of the traditions that we have in churches of Christ, in most cases, when we come together, we provide this opportunity where as family, we extend the Lord's invitation. That way, if there's somebody that's been studying and thinking about being a child of God, being immersed into Christ, there's always this opportunity in a public way to say, I want to do that tonight. Now, you don't have to do that in a public way. You could go to Brother Jerry afterward or go to one of the shepherds and say, hey, I'm ready to do that. You don't have to have a large audience around, but we always extend the Lord's invitation. The other thing that we're able to do, if we've realized, hey, I've kind of fallen short of the mark, and maybe I've fallen short of the mark in a public way, and I want my church family to know that I'm not happy about my decision, and I want to do better, and I want to start over. As family, we can pray for each other. And so if you have a need tonight, as we sing the song that's been selected, our prayer is that you'll let that be known, any need that you have while we stand and while we sing.
Yesterday evening, I six. Good night. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Christ. Congratulations. Someday, let's see. Prizes for that. the attention